If you have blocks, grab a block and you can sit on it to start with. If you kind of position yourself on the blocks, it's almost like you're about to fall off the front of it, but don't fall off the front of it. And that'll tip your hips a little bit and hopefully help you sit up a little bit taller than you would do without a block. Lovely. So as it's apparently Blue Monday, but we'd keep it nice and easy today. Have some rest. So yeah, we'll move nice and slowly. Don't do anything too demanding, and see how we go. So if you get comfortable to start with, find your spot, have any little wriggles that you need to find a little bit of comfort, a little bit of stillness, and a little bit of softness. So any wriggles that you need to make. We're going to start with some belly breathing. So it's up to you whether you want to rest your hands on your legs, or if you find that having your hands on your body helps you focus on your breath, then you're more than welcome to put maybe one on your chest, one on your belly, or both hands on your belly, just whatever helps you connect with your breath and what's happening. We're going to close the eyes and take a few soft breaths before we get going. So just breathing in nice and deep through the nose, and then a soft sigh out the mouth. Maybe 2 or 3 more of those. And then whenever you're ready, sealing the lips, just breathing normally through your nose to start with, observing your breath. Noticing its natural rhythm this evening. And once you feel familiar with your breath, you start to draw that breath deeper into the body, down towards your belly, and back out again, nice and steady. Trying to find a nice sort of consistency and continuity to that breath, so that the strength of it almost is consistent as you breathe in and as you breathe out. There's no kind of sudden puffs. You're not holding your breath, just trying to find it nice and fluid. I'm going to start to add in a light muscle engagement to that belly breath. We're going to keep working with the same pace, the same depth of breath. I want you to notice how your spine is, how you're sitting nice and tall. And on your next exhale, draw the front of your belly, particularly your tummy button, back towards the front of your spine as you exhale. As you inhale, let it soften, let the belly fill. So on your exhale, the front of the belly draws towards the front of the spine. Inhale, nice and full in the belly. Keeping that going. We're not trying to move the spine as we're breathing. We're keeping that nice tall sitting position. It's just the front of the body that's drawing in and softening out. Two more breaths like this. And then just returning to that deep, steady belly breath. We keep this breath as we start to move. So on an inhale, sweeping the arms high overhead, let the palms touch. And as you exhale, bring the hands back down to your heart. Keep going with these sun circles. Trying to match the sort of consistency and the fluidity of the movement with the breath. Once that rhythm feels a little bit more settled, maybe take your attention to your spine and notice if it shifts as you move the arms around, keeping the breath. And if it is shifting, see what happens if you try and hold the spine a little bit more still. See how that affects the movement in your arms. Two more sun circles. We're going to end up with the hands in prayer in front of the heart. Just going to switch the cross of the ankles over. I'm going to keep the hands at heart center. So if you just gently rest your thumbs down your sternum, so you've got a nice little connection there. I'm going to keep the head facing forward. We're going to start to twist from the waist up so the hips stay grounded. So on an exhale, we're going to twist to the right. As you inhale, come back to center. The next exhale takes you to the left. Okay. So for now, just keeping the head in line with the center of the chest. And you might notice it feels like a much smaller movement than when you let your head turn. Because there's lots of rotation in the neck. Our eyes kind of trick us sometimes into thinking we've turned more than we have. Still sitting up nice and tall, still breathing nice and deep. Next time that you end up on your right side, maybe take the back hand to your lower back, the front hand to your thigh or knee to the outside, and then let your head turn and gaze all the way over the back shoulder. And let your eyes roll all the way around as well, so they're looking to the far corner behind you. Still trying to sit nice and tall. Try to keep the spine long. Breathing nice and deep. On your next inhale, bring yourself to face front. Bring the hands back to heart center. And then the exhale is going to take us to twist the opposite way. Same thing. So the back hand can come to the lower back. Front hand to the outside of the knee or thigh. Gazing over that back shoulder, letting the eyes roll all the way around in the socket. Spine nice and long. Nice deep breaths. One more breath here. Then on an exhale, gently roll yourself back to the middle. Just going to do some shoulder rolls. So in your own time, nice big exaggerated movements with the shoulders. Trying to keep the spine still again, so the shoulders are rolling around the ribs. And then back the other way. Coming back to stillness, and then moving nice and slowly so we can keep that steady breath. You can remove your block. We're going to come to lie down on our backs. So if you pop yourself in the middle of the mat, you're going to make yourself into a really long pencil, legs out straight, arms overhead on the ground. Shuffle if you need to shuffle, only just fit. And then closing the eyes. Breathing again, finding that focus. And starting to notice the parts of your body that are touching the ground beneath you. Noticing where you have contact with the ground. You take a really gentle side stretch. So you're going to start by shuffling your feet over towards the far right corner of the mat, trying to keep all those same contact points with the ground beneath you. So just taking the feet as far as you can go and maintain that contact. And then the hands are going to walk over to the right hand side as well. Maybe the back shifts a little bit, but still trying to find those contact points. Trying to lie softly here, so notice if you're holding any tension. Trying to relax into this shape. Noticing how your breath moves through your body. On an exhale, walking the hands and feet back to the middle, so you're nice and long and straight again. Taking a couple of breaths here, noticing if you feel any shift, any change in the body. And when you're ready, walking the feet over to the left, finding that contact with the ground, and then the arms follow over to the left as well. Finding softness, releasing any tension that you're holding on to. And that includes your face. So notice if you Not tightening your jaw in any way. Make sure your tongue is soft. Nice steady breaths. Last breath on this side. Then gently walking yourself back to the middle. Nice straight line. Couple of breaths here. And we're going to bend up the knees. So bringing the soles of the feet to the ground. And we're going to take the feet wider than the hips. So maybe as far as each foot being half on and half off the mat. Just readjusting so you're nice and comfortable. You can keep the arms overhead if you want. That will give you a nice stretch down the front of the body. If you want to bring the arms down onto rest on your body or along the ground next to you, you're absolutely welcome to. Just see which feels better. We're going to start to do some gentle twists moving into the hips. So on your next exhale, you're going to drop the knees down to the right. And then inhale to bring them back up. Next exhale takes them to the left. And then inhale to lift. So keep that switch going. Keeping that movement, following the breath. And the next time your knees drop down to the right, you're going to hold there, let them rest. Your next inhale, whenever that comes, will bring your knees back up to the sky. Next exhale takes the knees to the left, resting there. And your next inhale, bringing the knees back up towards the ceiling. We're going to do a half happy baby. So if you bring the feet maybe a little bit closer together, I'm going to start with the right leg. So you're going to bring the right knee in towards the armpit. So it's kind of going wide of the body. You're going to flex through the sole of the right foot and lift it up. So you're keeping a bend in the knee, trying to maybe aim for about 90-degree bend, nice little right angle, flexed foot. And then you're going to grab the sole of your right foot with your right hand. So the hand can come inside or outside the foot, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter what your left leg's doing either. Just drawing that right knee in towards your armpit. Flexing the foot as though it's pressing against the ceiling. Lovely. Some of us can get our knees in our armpits much more easily than others. So just trying to find the spot that feels best. Nice steady breaths. Last breath on this side. And then nice and slowly letting go of the foot, letting the foot come back down to the ground. Lovely. So give the hips a little wiggle if that feels good. And then we'll set up on the left. So first drawing that left knee towards the left armpit, finding that sort of 90-degree bend at the knee, flexing the foot, and grabbing a hold of it. And then you're kind of relying on the tension in your arm to hold the foot there, and trying to let the shoulders relax down into the ground. Right knee can do whatever it wants. Nice, steady breaths. One more breath here. And gently letting go of the left foot. You're going to hug both knees into your chest. Maybe lifting the hips up so the knees come nice and close into the chest. And then we're going to roll the back flat onto the ground. So you may have noticed when you were lying out straight that there was a little gap in your lower back where you had that contact with the floor. So seeing now if you can press down into the ground through that space. And maybe you drawing the front of the belly down towards the spine to help hold it there, like we were with that breath at the start. Then the knees are going to shift so they're above your hips, and the shins are going to float up so they're parallel with the ground. So just letting the knees, you're trying to stack the knees over the hip joint, which is kind of at the front of the pelvis. So in most people, there's going to be a little gap between the knees, but not everyone. I'm going to start with the ankles. So drawing big circles with your big toes. You're just making sure you've got enough space to move your feet freely, independently of each other. Trying to keep the knees nice and still. Lovely. You're exploring nice and slowly so the muscles can adapt that full range of movement you've got in your ankle. I don't have masses. You've all probably got more than me. And then going back the other way. Still pressing that lower back down into the ground. One more breath. And then flexing the feet, holding them in the same position, still pressing the flat of the back into the ground. You're going to do some heel taps. So on an exhale, you're going to drop slowly that right heel to tap the ground, and inhale to lift it back up. So you can try and keep those 90-degree bends at the knee and the hip. Exhale, left heel comes down. Inhale to lift it. So swapping sides, again leading with the breath, using the full exhale to tap down and the full inhale to lift up. So it's nice and slow. If you want to make it a bit more challenging, then you can straighten the leg a little bit, straighten out the knee a little bit as the heel comes down. But make sure that lower back is still pressing into the mat, however far away your heels are tapping. This is aiming and working some of the muscles that don't really get any work when we're sitting down a lot. We'll just do one more on each side, taking your time. When you're done, hugging the knees into the chest, maybe having a little roll from side to side. I'm going to drop the left foot down to the ground and cross the right knee over it. So try and cross them as tightly as you can, trying to stack them as close as you can. You're going to draw the knees into your chest first, and lift up your head. See if you can grab a hold of the opposite leg. So you've got one leg in each hand. It doesn't matter how far up towards the knee it is, just whatever you can reach. And then relaxing the shoulders and the head back down to the ground. If they don't quite reach, then pop a cushion or a block or something underneath them so that you can take the weight, the effort out of your neck and shoulders. If you want to find a deeper stretch, you can pull the knees, the legs closer into the body. And if you need to soften it, you can slide the hands slightly up towards the knees. So there's a bit more space for your legs there. So the knees are as close together as they'll go. And the feet are coming as far apart from each other as they can. Nice steady breath. Last breath here. And we're going to release the left foot first so it goes down to the ground. I'm going to hug the right knee into the chest, in towards the very middle of your body. So it's a slight angle, holding there. And then you're going to take your left hand to rest on your left hip and draw the knee in more just towards the body, so it's kind of coming straight up from the hip joint with the right hand. So you're going to keep an eye on your left side. So that left hand is there as a little reminder, because that hip might pop up and you might need to press it back down. And just notice where your knee is in terms of its relationship to your hip. See if you can get that bony part at the front of your hip and your knee roughly in line with each other. You want to keep an eye on it, make sure it stays exactly there. Then with the right hand and the right knee, you're going to open the leg to the side like it's a book. Just coming as far out as you can with that left hip staying firmly on the ground. And that left knee staying exactly where you started it with. And when you found your spot, just breathing nice and deeply here. Again, trying to soften the shoulders, relax the neck, the face. One more breath here. And we're going to inhale to close the book, bring the knee back towards the hip, and then release the right foot down to the ground. Give the hips a little wiggle if they need a little wiggle, feet a little shake out if they need a little shake out. And then resetting, finding your breath again for a moment. And this time we're going to cross the left knee over the right knee. So again, finding that tight cross as tight as you can, stacking those knees. And then knees come into the chest, sitting up a little bit to grab an ankle or a shin, drawing the legs towards the body as you lie back down. Finding your breath, finding softness, particularly in your upper body. Adjusting to find that stretch. You're not looking to find like a really intense stretch. This is part of this, you have receptors in your body that will resist that. So you want to more find kind of the edge of the stretch, just where you start to notice it. Hold there, and then you might find that over time you can start to take it a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. One more breath holding here. And releasing the right foot down first. Left knee is going to hug into the middle of the body again. Couple of breaths holding it in here. Shoulders down. And then setting up for that little hip opener on this side. So left hand on the left knee, right hand on the right hip. Just check where that right knee is so you know what it's up to. And then on an exhale, opening the left knee to the side like a book, keeping the right hip down on the ground. And bear in mind, you might not be completely symmetrical, so you might have more or less space on this side compared to the other. Just notice how this side feels and responds to that. It really doesn't matter what your right hip does when we're working with the left. Nice deep breaths, nice soft shoulders. One more breath on this side. And then on your next exhale, you're going to close the book, left knee comes into the hip. Bringing both knees in, we're going to rock and roll this time. So up and down from the lowest part of your spine all the way up to your shoulders. If you don't like this and you want to come straight up to sitting, then do that instead. If you like this little massage, then we can do a couple more. And then we're going to bring ourselves up to sitting and over onto all fours. So, yeah, if you have blocks or a chunky cushion or something, maybe just leave them at the top of the mat, and they might come in handy. You never know. But finding your tabletop to start with. So finding that nice long spine, nice wide fingers, pressing through the fingertips. Gentle pressure through the feet, making sure you're pressing that ground away firmly and nice and long through the neck. On your next exhale, you're going to drop your belly to the ground, looking up and forward for cow. And as you exhale, arch the back to the sky, let the head hang heavy for cat. Keeping that going. So inhale to roll forward, belly down, looking up. Exhale, the back arches to the sky, head is heavy. Keeping that going. Maybe closing your eyes as you move. Focusing on that movement through the spine, almost trying to make it like a Mexican wave. Keeping your movement going with the breath. If you feel that you need to add a different shape or a hold in a spot for a couple of extra breaths, then feel free to explore that now. A few more breaths here. If you want to add in a little side bend, see how that feels. Just make sure you're still moving with the breath, still taking your time. Last 2 breaths. From there, you're going to sit back on your heels, find a chair pose. A chair pose, a child's pose. It's been a long day. Any version that feels good. Focusing on your breath. From here, we're going to come into a variation of thread the needle. So you might need to adjust slightly. So you want to take your knees kind of wide and reach the hands forward if they're not already there. And then we're going to slide the right hand under the left armpit and let the chest sink back down. Still taking those nice deep breaths. Your next exhale, whenever that comes, gently sliding the right hand back up to the top of the mat. Couple of breaths in the middle. Then on an exhale, the left hand threads under the right armpit, softening the chest back down again. Nice steady breath. On your next exhale, that left hand's going to come back up, back to the center. Couple of breaths here. Now we're gently going to make our way up to standing. So if you need to, we can come up two ways. I'll talk you through both. So just bringing your hands towards you first. I'm going to tuck the toes so that we end up in a sort of squat. So from here, there are two ways you can come up. So choose the way that feels best in your body. So you can just lift the hands and then stand straight up from here. Or if you want to take a couple of breaths in a ragdoll forward fold first, you're more than welcome to. So to do that, you'd want to take the hips up first, keep a bend in the knees. Take a few breaths, letting the top part of the body just hang heavy, neck be loose. If you come up from the squat to stand nice and tall, then have any little wriggles that you need. Maybe take some shoulder rolls, whatever feels good. If you're in a ragdoll, on an inhale, you're going to slowly unroll, keeping the knees bent and the chin tucked until you get all the way up, nice and steady. Standing tall at the back of the mat, couple of breaths. Lovely. So just going to reset a little bit with the feet. So making sure your feet are roughly under your shoulders so that all that sort of weight is stacked on top of each other. Lovely. I'm going to give the ankles and the calves something to do in case they feel neglected. So on an inhale, we're just going to lift the heels up, coming up onto tiptoes, and exhale to press them back down into the ground. So again, moving with that breath, inhale to lift, and exhale to lower. Okay, so keeping that going. Maybe fixing your gaze on something that's not moving in front of you, helping you to find your balance. Okay, next time you come up, we're going to hold at the top, breathing nice and steadily. So trying to get the ankles kind of positioned over the ball of the foot so that the bones are stacked on top of each other as much as they can be. Nice, steady breaths. One more. Then on an exhale, gently lowering the heels back down to the ground again. This time we're going to work with the toes. So on an inhale, you're going to bring the toes up towards your face. It's not quite such a dramatic movement. And on an exhale, press the toes firmly into the ground beneath you. So inhale, lifting the toes and the balls of the foot up towards the face. Exhale to press them all down into the ground. Just do that twice more. Inhaling to lift. Exhaling to press. Last one. Keeping that pressure down through the whole of the foot. Trying to balance it across the sort of tripod in your feet now. So if you think about the ball of the foot just by the big toe, the little toe, and the very middle of the heel, keep pressing firmly into those three spaces and lifting up through the body so you're nice and tall, drawing everything into the midline. Hands reaching down to the ground beneath you. Palms of the hands can face towards the body or they can face forward, whichever feels better in your shoulders. Nice, steady breaths. On an inhale, we're going to sweep the arms up overhead. You're going to catch the right wrist with your left hand. You're going to pull up on it. So you're still pressing down through the feet, pulling up through that wrist. So you're really long through the body. On an exhale, you're going to take a little lean over to the left. Nice, steady breath. Still pressing through the feet. Your next inhale will bring you up to the center. Releasing and switching the grip. Then pressing down through the feet as you pull up on the opposite wrist. Taking a little lean over to the right this time. Still pressing through those 3 points in the foot. Reaching through that top arm. One more breath up here. And we're going to inhale to reach up, reaching through both sets of fingertips for the sky, pressing through the feet. Bringing the hands together in prayer, and on exhale, bringing the hands down to the heart. Standing nice and tall. Maybe shuffling the feet a little wider again. We're going to come down through a squat. Actually, if you have a brick or a block and you're not especially open the hips, then maybe grab one. If you've got a cushion, that'll do as well. So feet a little wider than the hips this time, toes turning out, finding that prayer, nice long spine. And then on an exhale, we're going to start to sit down into the squat. So you want to keep the knees wide, trying to keep the spine long as the hips come down. So if you're quite high off the ground, you can pop the brick underneath you on a tall setting, and you can pop it under your bum, sit on that, but keep pressing the knees wide. It's just there to take some of the weight out of your hips, so you're still doing the work. It's not complete slack. Nice and tall through the spine, lifting the front of the chest. If you don't have a block and your heels pop away from the ground, which mine have a tendency to do, you're also absolutely fine to stay there. Again, knees out, long straight spine. On an exhale, we're going to take the hands down, bring the knees down and find our way back to child's pose. Any version, whatever feels good. On an inhale, bring yourself up to a kneeling position. And then we're going to slide our bum off our feet to the right hand side. So you're just sitting, letting the feet kind of just sit next to you. And you can use that right hand for a little, which way are we going? That way, yeah. So you can use the right hand for a little bit of support, and you can use the left hand to reach through. So you're going to start with a hand kind of by the foot or a little bit behind you. On an exhale, you're going to reach forward, let that top hip roll over. And then inhale to come back, let the hips roll back. Lovely. So exhale to reach, inhale to roll back. Just a couple more, nice and steady. Last one. And I'm just going to switch this arrangement over. So your feet are on the opposite side. And then the same thing on this side. So exhaling to reach and inhaling to come back, let the hips roll. Just a couple more. Last one. And swinging the legs out in front of you. Make sure there's some space behind you on the mat. Maybe taking the feet a little wider than the hips so that you can reach between the knees, curl yourself up as small as you can as you reach forward. So trying to make that space between the front of your collarbone, front of your pelvis as tiny as you possibly can. I'm going to keep it tiny as we start to roll down onto our backs. I'm trying to keep the toes down or the feet down. Trying to keep the front of the body as rounded as possible. Lowering yourself down vertebrae by vertebrae, all the way down onto your back. Arms can come to the ground overhead, maybe take opposite elbows. Soles of the feet are going to come together and the knees are going to drop out to the side. If this feels really heavy on your inner hip, front of your hip, then this is another good spot for bricks. They can go just underneath the top of the thigh, take some of that weight for you. And one on each side. You can use cushions there if you don't have, or folded blankets or books or whatever. Nice and steady with the breath. If you're holding opposite elbows, just switch your grip for the last few breaths. Whenever you're ready, on an inhale, going to draw the knees towards each other. So if the legs are feeling heavy, you can use the hands to give them a lift. And then we're going to draw the knees up into the chest. Let the arms come to rest on the ground alongside you, sort of in a T shape. On an exhale, going to drop the knees to the right. Letting the gaze come over the left shoulder. If one of your knees is sort of hanging, so if your bottom knee isn't touching the ground or your top knee isn't touching your opposite one, then you can grab one of your blocks or cushions, whatever it is, and fill that space with it. Take some of the weight out of the hip joint. Allowing yourself to find softness in this shape. A nice full breath. Last breath on this side. And when you're ready, inhaling to lift the knees above the body and exhaling to take them to the left. Again, notice if you need a little bit of support to allow yourself to find the softness, using any props that you need. And then allowing your body to relax, focusing on your breath. Last breath on this side. And inhaling to draw the knees up to the center. Having any last little wriggles that you need, give yourself a big hug, big squeeze, make yourself into a teeny tiny ball. Pull some silly faces, get the blood moving. And then when you're ready, find your way to your shavasana this evening. So if you're still up for experimenting with bricks, if you've got them, they can feel nice under your knees or thighs, particularly if when you lie down you find that your lower back feels a bit funky. That can feel rather lovely. Finding your spot, making sure you're warm enough. And as you start to settle, allowing your body to let go of all the work, all the effort of today. Taking 3 big long sighs to settle. A big breath in through the nose, drawing it nice and deep, filling up the belly, the lungs. Big long sigh out of the mouth. Maybe a couple more. With each sigh, allow yourself to become a little heavier, a little bit softer. Feeling the ground beneath you come closer as it starts to take over, do all the work of holding you while you rest for the next few moments. If you need something to focus on, then I invite you to stack your hands over your belly, just kind of at the top of the belly where the ribs start to separate. And imagine underneath your hands, between your spine and your hands, there's a little yellow ball of light. with each breath you take, that little ball of light grows a little brighter and a little bit stronger. Gently starting to breathe a little deeper. Bringing your attention back to your body, back to the room you're in. Starting to move a little, allowing those movements to grow bigger and bigger. Drawing your knees into your chest, rolling over to whichever side is most comfortable for you. Taking a couple of soft breaths on your side, and with the eyes still closed, starting to push yourself back up to seated, finding any comfortable seated position. Having any last little wriggles or twists that you need. Coming to rest. Taking a moment to thank yourself for making time for your practice this evening. Taking a moment to thank yourself for, thank each other for sharing this practice together. And I'd like to invite you to think about something else this evening which you feel grateful for. And when you're ready, rubbing your hands together, getting them nice and warm. Cupping the palms of your hands over your eyelids, taking a moment to notice how that feels. And when you're ready, taking a nice big breath, blinking open the eyes and taking your hands away from your face.